As a .NET developer, have you ever tried to create a new project or clone one, and then you try and debug your code, then magically your antivirus kicks in, it thinks it's some sort of virus, it scans your program, it blocks you from working, and you sit there feeling like a numpty waiting for it to change? Well, if that's happened to you, the good news is that in the latest version of Windows 11, there's an update which will save you from having to put up with this pain. And what's more, on top of that, it should also mean that your code will compile up to around 25% quicker, basically saving you a bunch of time on a yearly basis. So, if you want to know how to get rid of some of that frustration in your day-to-day dev life, carry on watching, because this is an essential video for all .NET developers. Our first step on this journey is to make sure that you have Windows Dev Mode installed locally. Now, in case you weren't aware, Windows Dev Mode was released as part of Windows 10. Now, I'd say that predominantly the features within Dev Mode are more aimed towards Windows App Store developers rather than .NET devs. However, there are a few useful things. So what we can do in our search is look for Settings or System. And if I click on this, you'll see that we get this window open here, and then within System right here, if I scroll down, you'll see an option within this list called For Developers. Now, if I click on this, you'll see at the top I can enable Dev Mode by clicking this on an off button. So if we quickly look through the options available in developer mode, you can see we can turn on the device portal, which allow us to turn on remote diagnostics via a local area network. We've got device discovery, again, which is more useful for App Store development. We can enable end task in taskbar. We've got some file explorer stuff. So show file extensions, show hidden and system files, show full path, show option to run as different user in start. Now, I should point out here that all of those file folder options are also available through Windows Explorer normally. You don't need to enable Dev Mode for it. However, this can be a shortcut to have everything in a single place. And then finally, aside from File Explorer, we've also got the ability to enable remote desktop debugging. We've got the ability to set the default terminal. And finally, we have this ability to enable the PowerShell execution policy. Now, for anyone watching this who's new to PowerShell, the reason why we need to run this command is basically when you install Windows, PowerShell is locked down by default. This means that when you try and do development related processes and tasks, you get blocked. So basically you need to enable this execution policy to be able to work with PowerShell. Now, for me personally, I don't really use these scripts that often. Now, the reason for this is I have a big giant PowerShell script that I've created, which sets all the File Explorer permissions, the PowerShell permissions. It uses Chocolatey to install all the packages I need. Now, I have actually created a video on how this all works, which is linked to below. But for normal .NET developers, I think we can agree that previously this dev mode is kind of handy, but it's not this mission critical thing that you need to worry about. However, as we'll see, with this new Windows update, we've now got a new section, and this is the key thing for this video. Now, assuming that you have the Windows 11 22H2 update or above, when you look in For Developers, you should see this brand new section, which is called Dev Drive. And in here, you basically have two options. You can create yourself a dev drive, or you can control the antivirus behavior on your dev drive. And this is super useful. So to get going, what we need to do is create a brand new dev drive, and you've basically got two options. So option one is to install your dev drive in a partition. So obviously this is really useful if you have a spare partition that you can reformat, or if you can just reformat your PC and start again. Now, option two is going to be more useful for people like me who have a PC, they can't reformat their hard drive, or they don't have a spare partition to use. So in option two, we can create a virtual hard disk drive. So the disk drive's going to live within our existing file system. However, it's still going to allow you to make use of this new dev drive format. Now I'm going to create a virtual HD here, and what we do is click on this button. You can see that you give your hard disk a name or an alias. You set the file location where you want your virtual hard disk to be created. So for me, I've created a folder in my C drive which is called dev, and then finally we can give it a size. Now I recommend that you give this a big size, and if you're worried about space, you can see that in my virtual hard disk type settings, I can use dynamically expanding drives. So it means that you can set this to a very big volume and it's not going to eat up a bunch of space if it's not used. So following on from that process, I should be able to create myself a brand new dev drive. And after you've created it, if you look in my PC or my computer, you'll see that your dev drive should appear as a standalone drive. So you can see here, I labeled mine code. I set the drive volume to Z, and then within it, if I look, you'll see that I've copied all of my different projects and solutions here. And then just to finish the story, if I look within my C drive here, if I look within that dev folder, you'll see that my virtual hard drive has been called code and it's living in this folder. And if I click on it, you'll see that it's now 12 gigs in size. So we've got a bunch of room to add in our code. So hopefully, as you can see, as long as you have some free hard drive space, setting up a dev drive should take you less than 10 minutes. Now, as the setup's nailed, the more important question to answer now is why bother doing this in the first place? Now, an important element to understand about dev drives is formatting. So a dev drive will be formatted using a newer file format that makes use of REFS technology. So granted, that was a bunch of letters, and basically REFS stands for the Resilient File System. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of different reasons why you might want to consider REFS to store your data. However, for developers, the two big ones are around compiling and security. The first thing to be aware of is that compiling code contained within an REFS formatted file system will be quicker because REFS is optimized for disk-bound operations. This means that while you're compiling code, any operations that involve reading, cloning, or copying files on your disk will be quicker. And this also applies to NuGet package restores as well. Now, the second benefit is more finer-grained control over the trust designation of that drive. So basically, this means you can tell your antivirus software to not scan your app during debugging anymore. Now, granted, this sounds amazing. However, what does this actually look like practically? Now, I think the best way to demo these savings is to compare build times using my website code. So to keep this simple, we can make use of PowerShell and the measure command. So this is basically going to time how long our build command takes. And all I've done is I've got my website code, I've got it on my normal hard drive, and then I've cloned it and also copied it into my dev drive. So comparing these two things, what do you think is going to happen? So first off, you can see here that I'm in my C directory, I'm in my website solution, and then the command I can run is very simple. I can do measure-command, and I can do this .NET clean, pipe out default, semicolon, .NET build, semicolon, out -default. Now, when I hit return, you can see that my project's been cleaned. I'm then going to compile it. So it's going to run through, do its thing. And then finally, at the end, it's going to output how long it took to run. So you can see here, time elapsed around 9.2 seconds. We've now switched over to my Z drive. So what I've done is copied the exact same folder. I can now run exactly the same command. What we'll see is, again, we're cleaning. Now we're building. And what will happen is that at the end, we should see that this has taken 5.4 seconds. Now, obviously, you don't need to be an advanced mathematician to understand that 9 seconds and 5 seconds, that's roughly about a 40 to 50% saving. Now, this is actually a little bit higher than what Microsoft thinks that you'll get. So they'll say that typically you're going to find something around the 20-25% mark. However, it is a really good win, and as you can see, all you need to do is just copy your code into a slightly different directory. So let's look at the second benefit. So you can see now that I'm debugging my website. my terminal should spin up in a second, and then when that happens, we should see that my website should launch. Boom. So the good thing about that is no antivirus software flagged. It was really quick, and this for me is the big time saver of using a dev drive, because that antivirus check is so annoying. Now, if you thought we were done, you are wrong. There's one last tip that the dev drive documentation recommends that you configure, and this is to set your local package cache to your dev drive. So this is fairly simple to set up. So first, if we go to my dev drive, you can see that I've created a folder here called packages. Now, the next thing we need to do is within our global system environment variables, we need to point our NuGet cache to that folder. So in order to do this, we can go to the edit system environment variable. In here, I can click on my environment variables. Now I set up a user variable here, and you can see that it's called NuGet-packages, all in capital. And you can see here that it's pointing to my Z packages. Now, once I've got this set up, I could do something like a command prompt, and I can do a command which is .NET NuGet locals globals -packages list. And if I do this, you can see it's pointing to Z. Now, don't worry too much about how to do this. All the instructions are in this documentation. Now, the key thing here is, let's say that I did a NuGet restore on my project. If I now looked within my package directory in Z, you'll see that all my NuGet packages are being added in here. And the benefit now comes when we look at the compile time again. So quickly jumping back to PowerShell and running our performance command again, you can see that after enabling the NuGet package cache, we've got the build time down to 5:31. Now, if we look at the normal .NET version, you can see we've got a significant boost here, and it's down to 5 seconds and 88. And this is kind of a key takeaway, that if you can't be bothered to move all your code into a dev drive, by simply setting up a dev drive with your NuGet cache directory, you're going to get some really good performance boosts as well. So personally, I think Microsoft has yet again knocked it out the park with dev drive. Now, I'm not sure why I'm always so surprised that Microsoft does such great things in the development world. I mean, look at VS Code, Visual Studio, or what they've done with the .NET framework over the last few releases. For me, there's been some amazing stuff here, and this just adds to the list. I mean, simply just setting your global NuGet package cache and cloning your code into a dev drive is going to give you day-to-day performance benefits, and no more annoying code antivirus scanning. Now, we reached that point in the video that before we part ways, don't forget I do a free newsletter, link below. I also do a video every single Sunday all about .NET development. So basically videos that will help you to become a better developer. So don't forget to smash subscribe. And it does take me a long time to do these videos. So either click on like to show me some love, or if you think I could do a better job, let me know in the comments below rather than just doing the thumbs down. Now, aside from that, on the screen right now, there's a video which will tell you about the best hidden features of Visual Studio. I recommend you check it out. And finally, next week, there's going to be a mini series all about .NET 8 and C# 12. So that should be a banger. Aside from that, hope you're having a great day wherever you are in this beautiful world. And until next Sunday, happy coding.